All right, so this is problem set 110, and this may be one of the easiest lessons in the entire book. I could even summarize it as, if you wanted to, I could summarize it like this. If you have zeros at the end of your answer and there's a decimal answer, you can just remove the zeros and you'll be correct. Let's read and you'll see what I mean. So we are on page 418. Here we go, we're reading. When we write numbers, we should write them in simplest form. When we simplify a number, we change the form of the number, but we do not change the value of the number. So example, 4/6, when reduced to 2/3, you still have the same amount of pizza. 4/6 of pizza is the same as 2/6 of pizza. I've just reduced it to a simpler form, but it's the same value, right? Same thing happens with the whole numbers when, well, you'll see that. We have learned how to simplify fractions by reducing. We can often simplify decimal numbers as well. We simplify decimal numbers by removing unnecessary zeros. We will explain this by simplifying 0.20. The decimal number 0.20 has a 2 in the tenths place and a 0 in the hundredths place. The 0 in the hundredths place means no hundredths. If we remove the 0 from 0.20, we get 0.2. The number 0.2 also has a 2 in the tenths place and no hundredths. Thus, 0.20 equals 0.2. We say that 0.20 simplifies to 0.2. In other words, if I've got this, I can just drop that 0 and I've got 0.2, and that is the same amount. In fact, this would be the correct way to write it now. When later on, when you get into Mr. Karakis's class and Mr. Evans's class, this is what he will not accept an answer like that. He'll say, why do you got that extra 0? Just make it like that, right? So let's go ahead and keep reading. We can remove zeros from from the front of whole numbers and from the back of decimal numbers. We remove zeros until we come to a digit that is not a 0 or until we come to a decimal point. Below we have simplified, how about that? Simplified 02.0100, 20.0, and 0.200 by removing the unnecessary zeros. So you can see on page 110, I'll just show it right there, that they got rid of that 0 in the front, turned it into 2, and got rid of the zeros at the end. This is so simple. I feel like I probably don't need to put it on the board. I think we got it. Let's move on. If you do need me to do it on the board, just send me a private message and I'll put up a video, but I'm going to assume this is okay. All right, here we go. Notice the example on the right. Two simplified forms. Oh, in the center example, we continue to simplify 20 by removing the decimal point. If there is no fraction part, the decimal point can be removed. Okay, now we're on to the top of page 419. Notice the example on the right. Two simplified forms are shown, 0.2 and 0.2. We know that the decimal point separates the whole number part of a decimal number from the fraction part. If there is no whole number part, a 0 may be written in the ones place. The numbers 0.2 and 0.2 are equal to each other. Either form is correct. Calculators display a 0 in the ones place. We will continue to show a 0 in the ones place. Let me explain that one. In fact, I like this because this was different from what I was taught in 7th grade math with Mr. Hauser, who was also the football coach. I'm not sure why you'd care about that. That is just kind of typical in a lot of your public schools as the football coach, because we had a football team. My junior high went to 9th grade, and football coaches often taught bonehead history and the simple math classes, like just basic pre-algebra. So what they're saying is 0.2 is the same as 0.2. Now, Mr. Hauser insisted that if I wrote that I had to write that as my answer. I had to have a 0 in the ones place. And if you put this, it was marked wrong. This book is saying, don't worry about it. You can write either one. They will keep writing this in the book, but understand this will be an acceptable answer. And I agree, I always thought, why? What's wrong with that? I see this all the time and nobody's confused. So, you know, 0.3 is the same as 0.3, and you don't need to put a 0 in the ones place. You can do this if you want to. But if you really like that, if you think it looks beautiful with a nice little 0 in your ones place, feel free. Right. So let's go ahead and let's quickly simplify. We're going to do practice A, and it will be on the board. And if you, once again, if you want to pause and get ahead of me, you may. And then unpause when you've got an answer to see if it's the same as mine. So we have 0, 3.20, and I'm just going to drop the unnecessary zeros. There is a 0 here, and there's an unnecessary 0 here. So my new answer will be 3.2. There it is. Let's look at number B, or letter B, 0.320. You're probably noticing not much to it. 0.320. Again, I've got an unnecessary 0 here. I've got an unnecessary 0 here. So I'm just going to drop them, and I'm going to get 0.32. All right, let's look at C. $32.00, okay? Making sure I wrote it down correctly. Now, all I gotta do is drop my unnecessary zeros. And since I'm dropping those zeros, as some of you probably figured out, you've seen me do before, my new answer is just gonna be this. Not 32 point, but just 32. I don't need my decimal there, right? So once, if there are no decimal places afterwards, you don't need the decimal point. Okay, let's do the next one, 3.020. Okay, so this is, if any of you are going to mess up, this will probably be the one where you mess up. Just slow down, just make sure you got this. And the unnecessary 0, remember, it's not drop all the zeros, it's just drop the unnecessary zeros. So if you look right here, it's just the zeros at the end, so I'm only going to drop this one. We'll leave that one there, because so this would be 3.02. Now, in case you're wondering, many of you aren't. If you aren't wondering, you can go and skip ahead about 10 seconds while I explain this. Otherwise, if you are, or maybe 20 seconds. So, this is $3.02. If I were to drop this 0, I would have $3.20, right? So this is 3 2/10, this is 3 2/100. So don't drop that 0, otherwise you'll actually change the value that you have. So you need to keep the 0 and just make it 3.02, right? Leave that 0. All right, here we are, we're back to simplifying each answer. So we got E, and so that's going to be a simple math problem. You already know this because you've lined up the dot to give it all you got, and that's 3.65 plus 6.35. Don't forget to carry the 1, Demetrius. 5 plus 5 is 10. I'm going to put a 0 here and a 1 right here. 1 plus 6 is 7, plus 3 is 10. I'm going to bring down my dot, my decimal. I'm going to carry the 1. 1 plus 3 plus 6 is 10. Then I'm going to drop my zeros, and my answer is 10. My simplified answer is 10. All right, let's do the next one. This is a subtraction problem. Make sure you subtract and don't add. Pay attention to the signs. Follow the signs. 23 16 hundredths minus 19 46 hundredths, right? So 6 plus 6 is 12, or wait a minute, whoops, don't be adding, it's a subtraction. So I got to do 6 minus 6, and that's 0. 1 minus 4, don't you dare put 3, that would be wrong. I'm going to borrow from the 3, make a 2, because this 1 is bigger than the 4, and I can't deal with negative numbers right now. So I'm going to put a 1 right here, and 11 minus 4, why, I do believe that is 7. And then I just bring down my decimal, and I got 2 minus 9. I'm going to borrow from that, make a 1. Why? Because that 2 is smaller than the 9. So I'm going to put a 12, or put a 10 right there, or 1 right there. Now I got 12 minus 9, and 12 minus 9, that is 3, and 1 minus 1 is 0, right? So the lesson is simplify, get rid of your unnecessary zeros. I don't need a 0 here, I don't need a 0 here, so my answer is 3.7, or 3 7/10. One last one, and then you're off. This is a short lesson video. Here we go. And that will be 4 23/100 minus 3 18/100. And so let's go ahead and subtract. Ooh, let's see who's visiting. Oh my gosh, it's special guest Miss Behrens. Did you want to say hi? To the 5th grade math class. I am recording. Miss Behrens, how would I do this math problem right here? Would you like to walk us through it? Thank you, special guest Miss Behrens.
Hey. Okay. So we would make this at 13 here.
Why would you do that? Did you borrow from the 2?
I did borrow from the 2.
You made it a 1. Okay.
1. And so 13 minus 8 is...
You're on the spot. I'm not giving her the hand signal answer off to the side, kids.
5.
That does match up with the hand signal that I'm not giving you.
And 1 minus 1 is 0.
Okay.
And then we carry the decimal
We
point.
bring down the decimal, yep.
And then 4 minus 3 is 1.
Good. Were there any unnecessary zeros to drop from this? Nope, looks
No.
like we need to leave that 0 there because that is not an unnecessary 0. To explain to Miss Behrens, if there was a 0 right here or a 0 right here, we would get rid of them because they are not necessary. However, you don't get rid of that one because then you change the value from $1.05 to $1.50. All right, and if you have any questions, you post to me. And don't forget to have this done by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning would be Friday morning. And then, so you have the work done by 9 o'clock. Then I will post the answers, and then you correct it, and then you submit your corrected work by 5 o'clock Friday afternoon. Tomorrow being Friday. Yes. All right. Thank you very much.